this on for a minute. Turn it off when you're ready.
Well, hello. I'm Erika Joanne from Erika Joanne Art, and I love to combine paint and color pencil in a mixed media way. And we're going to be working on some dogs from the little dog book that a little collaboration with my daughter and I. And we've been doing a few in this series, and we're on to our fifth dog. So I'll show you what we've done so far. This is our first project, was this lab. He was a fun one. I actually glued this onto a block. It's a 4x4 piece of watercolor paper that comes from this book. I'll show you in a minute. And we've done this guy. This guy kind of grew on me. Took me a little bit to get used to him, but I think I like him. He's cute. And then we've done this guy. This is glued on the other side of this panel. We've done this one. I think this guy is my favorite. I love him. I think he turned out really fun. This next one I am not real happy with. I feel like I need to work on him more. I'm not happy with him. I think the eyes, something is not right. So anyway, he deserves another chance. I think I might try him again. So yeah, it's all about, playing around, see what we can do. And I hope you enjoy this session today. We're going to be working on the last dog in the book, which is this happy little fellow. I thought he'd be fun to work on today. And according to my daughter, this is a pit bull mix puppy. So if you have the book, you can either rip out the paper or keep it in the book. It's up to you. I'm going to rip mine out. You have two choices from your book. This book is the Pups and Portraits book. There are 12 different dogs in this book, and each one is duplicated, so you have two of each. And here's an example. There's two of that one. So yeah, lots of different dogs. And if you go onto our website at erikajoanne.com, you'll be able to see all the different choices and what each dog is in this book. The book comes with an easel, and it also comes with an ornament. So this particular book has an ornament. I'll show you what it looks like when you get the whole set. It looks like this. So you get a little ornament, a little doggy bone ornament, and you can personalize it for your dog. And you get the easel, and on the back it shows all the different dogs. And also on the back of your book there is a breakaway panel that you can use, and I showed you earlier. This was excuse the motorcycle, the neighborhood motorcycle. This is a breakaway panel that I glued the paper on to both sides, so you can flip it around, and then you can use your easel to display the pieces. So that's kind of what that's all about. A fun little kit that you can purchase off our website, and the website is erikajoanne.com. I'll just show you this here. A little easier to do that if you want to go to the website. Okay, so I just pulled away my dog that we're going to be working on today. And I also pulled some colors I think would work well for this dog. From the examples I can see on the internet,
he'd look really cute if he was a gray and white. So I'm gonna try that gray and white today. We've done a lot of browns in our dogs, so I thought, oh, it'd kind of be fun to do something a little different than just the regular browns all the time. So I use Josania and Prismacolor together. They're a great combination because Josania dries to a matte finish, works so good on the watercolor paper. And this watercolor paper from the book is already etched for you and ready to go. So you don't have to do any transferring. It's so great. All right, well, let's start. We're going to start with our paint. So I pulled these colors just so you can pull your colors. So I pulled carbon black, warm white, rose pink, and colony blue. We might add to that. I'm not sure. We'll see. We have the list of all the different supplies on the website with this particular book that we'll be using with all the dogs in this book. So I'm trying to get through all the dogs, all 12 dogs, and see how it goes. So I have a few colors here. I've got black and 10% cool gray and poppy red and sienna brown for my Prismacolor pencils. Okay, let's bring in, get you guys a little closer here. Zoom you in. Okay. All right, isn't he cute? He's just so happy. So happy to be alive. All right, so we'll start out with, how about we'll do the tongue first, and we'll just use rose pink, straight rose pink for that. Just need a tiny little bit on your palette paper. So welcome, welcome. I'll go catch your comments in just a second. See if I know any of you. Maybe I do. I'm using a round brush, and I'm going to really water this down. So I'm pulling a little bit from the main puddle, and I'm adding water to it because I want it to be a watercolor-ish. These are acrylics, kind of similar to a gouache. They can be watered down and they can also be used opaquely. So we'll just do a light pink on the tongue. Get that in there. And you want it to be nice and light. If it's too dark, then you have too much, paint in too much pigment going on. You can always add a little water to it and pat it with the paper towel and try to remove some of the color if it's too much. Okay. One thing I like to do, and this is a little trick I like to use, I just take my paper towel and pat it like that, and then it creates texture. Doesn't that look cool? I like it. And it also removes some of the pigment so it's not so dark. Okay. Trying to imagine if there would be like more red in his mouth. I think, and trying to figure out, the drawing here, I think there is some gummy stuff going on right here. I don't know. Not super sure. It looks like it's part of the chest. So I think I'll just keep that. I'll go black with that because I just don't see where I maybe would put the red. I think we'll just go black. Okay, so I'm gonna look at your comments really quick. See if I see any here. Doesn't look like it. Well, oh, there we go. I see it at the very bottom. Took me a bit. Well, hello, Linda and Cheryl and Verdi. I know all of you. It's great to see you. It's been a while since I've been on YouTube, and I'm I'm gonna put out my schedule here real soon in an email. So if you follow me by email, be watching for that. It's coming soon. If I can get it out today, I'm gonna try, but it might not be today. It might be tomorrow that I get that email out. So just be watching. I will be sending that out shortly to let you know what's going on. Okay, let's move over and create a. I kind of want to create like a almost like a taupey gray. So I'm going to use my black here, just a little bit there. And I'm going to use my warm white. Hmm. Hold on for just a second. Try to get my tube back together here. Okay, warm white. Let's put a little bit of that. And I'll check my other colors that I had here. So brown earth is one. I might try that too. So a little bit of brown earth too. Because I don't want it to be just gray. I want a little bit of the brown going on too. Okay. Let's start out with our warm white and a little bit of brown earth. I'm going to do that. So a little more warm white and brown earth. And then we're going to just barely touch the black in there because the black is going to overtake it really fast. Okay, that looks pretty good, but I really want a little more black. So I'm going to keep adding it until I get it to where I want it. It needs to be kind of a grayish brown. And this is still pretty light, so I'm going to keep going a little darker, just a little bit at a time. Black can really go crazy with you. So it's getting there. Not quite there yet, though. A little darker. Okay, I'm going to go one more step darker. All right, I'm liking that. Can you see that? That's better without all the sheen. Okay. It's kind of a taupey gray. That little touch of brown in there. Okay, let's water that down to a milky consistency. There we go. And we're going to work on this dog. We're going to leave some white areas. I've noticed that a lot of the little puppies I see that are like a pit bull have some white areas that are pretty, like stark. There's a good white area, and then there's the gray areas. So let's start out on the ears and everything. I'm going to look in the ears, see if they're lighter at all. Well, it looks like they're kind of darker. So the only white area I see on most of them are just this white area down here. So we'll go ahead and fill in our ears. I'm going to work around the eyes, kind of leave them open. We can come back to those. So I'm working on the tip of my brush just to get into those little tight areas. And I'm using a number 3 round. Okay, you want to try to keep the watercolor pretty damp. So I just added more water to my brush and added it to the paint here. So if it starts to dry, just grab some water, put it in your brush really quick, and mix it in. This is drawing is very whimsical. Something my daughter did. Auberry. Oops, I went into some of the eye there. I'll have to work around that eye. And like I said, we'll just come back to the eye. Let's go over the nose, just completely go over that. We're going to darken the nose later. And around the tongue. I was like, is this a collar? I don't know. It almost, I think it is. Because I don't know that that would be part of the design of the dog. So I'm going to just assume that is a collar. And I'm going to leave this area white right here because to me that looks like it could be a marking on his chest. And continue to bring the color down. Some of these pit bulls, they look like they have kind of a velvety fur, like a fur coat to them. So you can here and there just go and tap with your paper towel and you'll create a little texture. It's kind of fun to do that. Okay, the back end of the dog, I'm just going to do it the same color here, just that velvety grayish brown. So pretty. Bring it down into the foot. And let's just tap it with a paper towel, create some texture. Okay, that's so fun. All right, I'm going to skip that collar looking thing. I think it's a collar because I can't imagine what else it would be. So I'm going to skip it. We'll come back and color that in with something else. And then I'm going to work around this little marking. I imagine that would be the white area. But how are you guys doing today? We have a nice day today in the Pacific Northwest. And you can hear maybe that my husband is out there mowing the lawn. He chose to do that while I'm on my live. Oh, but he was itching. I think he was itching to get out there. It's such a nice day. You cannot keep a Pacific Northwesterner inside on a nice day. Everyone wants to be outside doing something. I'm working around these little spots. Okay. We are almost there. That is a beautiful color. I'm just so happy with that. I think that looks really good. Loving it. Okay, so let's look what else we got here. Such a pretty color. Okay, let's rinse out our brush and there is one gray area I want to get, and that is right above the eye. It's almost like his little eyelids. I did it on that side, but I didn't do it on that side. So make sure and get the eyelids around his eyes. And what I could see is it looks like they have blue eyes. And the only color I have that I'm using for these are Colony Blue. So we'll just have to go with that. So I'm going to just take a little bit of colony blue, tiny little bit. You guys don't need any, hardly any. And I wanted to tell you, I do have these paints in different smaller sets of paints. They come in small tubes, and it's $11.95 for this small set. And I'll show you one. I have 5 different sets on the website, so you can get like little small tubes. And all these colors I'm working with come in the set. So just look around on my website. Okay. So let's do kind of this bluish color on his eyes. Make sure it's nice and dry before you go in there. And let's just put the blue in there. We'll go in and add the pupils in a bit. Oh, if you notice, I got a little smudge there, so I'm going to try to get that off. You just clean out your brush so you have clean water, and just kind of, if you get it soon enough. The Josani paints are, um, they reconstitute. And if you're careful not to push the color into the paper, like really try to be gentle about it. Even when you're patting like that, you don't want to push the color in the paper. You can get most of the color out. So that's good. Okay, got the blue eyes. Doesn't that look cool? I love it. Love, love, love. All right, let's go do the nose. It is a darker color, so I'm going to take most of my black. So I'm going to take this part of my black, and we'll work on the nose with that. It's also watered down. It's just a little, it's like a few value steps up. Or it's a little darker than what you've done for the fur coat. And I want it a little more transparent than I'm adding to this. So I'm going to pat it. Maybe that will help it be a little more transparent. Okay, that helps a little bit. I can water it down a little more on my palette. And I'm just going to stop. The design kind of has a funny, doesn't really stop there, but you can just stop it with your brush. And, it doesn't look quite natural having the nostrils light in color, so you want to fill that in too. We might come back and darken those with the black pencil later. Okay. And then we talked about the mouth earlier. Let's go in and darken around the tongue a little bit. And, usually you have those kind of like the lip area of the dog is a little darker than kind of like the skin, it's a little darker. So I'm going to just fill in some of this with the same color. Okay. And how about if your blue is dry, we can also put little darkness in the pupil area. I'm just putting kind of some dots at the top of the eyes. Okay. Cute. Okay, well, our little collar, what color should we do our collar? Maybe a blue? Might as well use that same blue on our palette. I'm gonna do that. Or maybe you have a different color you wanna use. You can use what suits you. And something I always tell, those that paint with me that I would like you to start out with what you have. If you don't have all these colors and it's overwhelming to you, just Maybe you have some watercolor sets sitting at home, or maybe you have a few brushes. Just use what you have, and you can always build on your supply as you go. Okay, I think that's good for now. We'll just go ahead and let that dry before we move on with our colored pencils. Let's see what's going on. Have any more comments? Hey, I see Cheryl and Lisa. Now I see Lisa now. Hello, hello. Okay. Fun. Just so fun. I think I'll dry that with my hair dryer, or actually have kind of like a heat gun type thing. This is a wonderful tool by Ranger Heated Craft Tool. This is such a great tool. It's not too loud. We can go in and dry things pretty quickly. Getting there. Okay. All right. He's so fun. He looks he's just such a happy chappy. Okay. How about we start out with our poppy red pencil? So you need some kind of red pencil. Poppy red is what I'm liking from Prismacolor. And I'm going to put in some shading coming from the top of the tongue, because I'm imagining that tongue is inside the mouth, right? So this part would be kind of the darkest area of our tongue. So I'm using a little pressure to put in my darkest value. And you also want to use a sharp pencil. Keep it nice and sharp. We are using 140, 130 cold press watercolor paper, and it does have some texture to it. So working with a sharp pencil over that is helpful. So I'm going into my medium value, which is a little less pressure, and working in a circular motion. And as I go down the tongue, I'll move into my light value, which is just a touch, a feather touch on my surface, and letting that color just blend right into the background. You would like I'd like you to have all those colors blend right into each other. So those different values. So you've got your dark value, your medium value, and then your light value. Have it all blend together. So it looks like it transitions real smoothly. And then go ahead and line the middle of the tongue. And you can lightly line around the tongue too. Okay. Fun. Okay, that's all we need with our poppy red pencil. Uh, we'll do a layer now, and we're just going to bring in a different color, but we'll add another layer. So we're going to go back into our tongue. You want a nice sharp pencil, and start back where it's the darkest. Use a little pressure. You're going to add another layer, but this layer won't go as out far as it won't go out as far as we did with our poppy pencil. We'll go about halfway and then let it blend. So we're just deepening the color where it's darkest. You can also lightly line the middle of the tongue slightly. A little bit more lining around the outer edge. That just warms it up really nicely, doesn't it? Okay. Okay, let's take the same color and we'll do some shading on our dog. And we'll finish up with a different color later, but this will just kind of warm up the color of our dog. And I'm kind of imagining that inside this ear, we're going to have some like a darker color inside the ear. So you'll see like there's a line right here and kind of go. So just kind of try to stay inside those lines and fill it in with like a medium value. And then you can go into your darker value right like right in this area. A little more pressure right there. Okay. Now there's like a fold on the other ear. And okay, so I'm going to start out with just lining against the head right there. In fact, I probably should do this on that side too. So, and go ahead and shade from that line. We'll do that over here. We'll shade against the line and then let it fade as we come out into the ear. And the fold is a little different. I'm just going to go ahead and accentuate that little loop there and fill that in with a dark value. Kind of accentuates that fold. Okay, excuse me. Let's move on down the pup. Let me look at my reference photo. I've been just kind of looking at different photos. So how about a little shading along the top of the head, a little up here. It's kind of like a light value up in this area. Darkest up against the top of the head. And then more, yeah, it's more medium value and then into the light value. Let it fade. And then let's do some shading right here above the nose. So darkest right up against the nose. And then let it fade as you move up the bridge of the nose. And there's like a little, you got the bridge of the nose, and right in this area, it's like a bend. So let's accentuate that bend part, that bendy part. And actually, I'm going to go back and erase some of this because I think I went too far with my color. So I'm going to just lighten it up right up against the nose because I really want it to be dark in this area right here where it bends. The head kind of has a little bend there. And then the nose part sticks out. Okay. Okay, and then let's see, under the eyes, let's leave a little bit around the eye and then just go under the eye and shade right in this area. So that way on both sides, leave a little bit under the eye and then kind of shade down below the eye. I think I'm going to bring some of the shading on the left side. It's kind of around the eye in that area, around the left side of the eye. All right, let's put a line there underneath the nose. And there's a little bit of shading coming from that line out, that midline, that middle line. And it's pretty light going around the nose, so I'm going to just leave this area light around the nose. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to add this little line underneath in the smile area, kind of darken that area. Okay, a little more shading on the left side of the face, coming down the left side there. All right. Bringing it on down. We're going to be working on this with black in a minute after we get the sienna brown done. So let's work on the back end of the dog. There's a line right here that kind of separates the front and the back. So you can go ahead and line that and then shade up away from it. So shade into the back end of the dog. And let's go ahead and add the line in between the foot and the leg, and then shade some of the foot. Also a line in between the tail and the back end. Okay. Okay, you can go ahead and lightly line around the rest of the dog. I kind of skip my line along. Keep it light. There we go. Let's shade underneath the body on the leg itself. Do that on both legs. Okay. And then we really do want to create some contrast in this area where it's right up against the white. So let's shade up against that. Kind of shade out away from it. These white areas. Almost looks like there's a little island there. There. And then a little bit up here. Underneath his mouth. You put that line there on both sides. And then some shading underneath that. It's so good to be on again. I haven't been on for a little while. And I'm going to be creating a new schedule. I'm excited to add a few interesting things. So we're going to break up our time with the dogs. And I'll be, adding them here and there to the schedule, but I'm gonna do some other fun, quick type of paintings. I'm just got inspired and wanna do something with you, so I don't wanna give away the what I'm gonna be doing, so I will, say something about it in my email that I send out. Okay, that kinda gives us a nice little base, kind of a shaded base. Now we're gonna go in with black and kinda clean things up and make it look a little better there. So we got a black pencil, make sure it's nice and sharp. And we'll start up at the top again of our dog. So I'm gonna be back in the ear, and I really want to deepen the color here. So I'm starting out where it would be darkest, and that's kind of right up against the head. And I'm pulling my shading up into that ear and then lightly letting it fade as I get kind of to the end where I feel like it's ready to fade. Okay. And you can leave some of that texture in there. I didn't quite shade everything. I'm kind of leaving some darker areas and some lighter areas. I'm going to put a little bit on the tip of the ear there. And let's line around the head. A little more shading here on the ear. Okay. Let's move over, go across here, across the forehead, do a little line there, and move over to the other ear, a little line at the base, and shade away from that. And in this little fold of the ear, you can kind of fill that in. And lightly line around the outside of the ear. You want to pick up your pencil here and there so it's not like a solid, hard, harsh line. Okay, so we got the two ears done, they're ready, and let's work on the forehead. So we do have some shading up there. We are just going back through and repeating some of our brown shading. A little bit of a repeat going on. And this area, I really want this to be accentuated because that's between the eyes. That is where you've got kind of a dark shadow here, where there's kind of an indent, in the head. It's a little darker in that area. Okay, now we can work on our eyes. They do need a little work, I think. Let's do an outline around the outside of our eye. Let's do that. How about on the top, like so? Little outline on both eyes. Okay. And then you can go ahead and outline the bottom of the eye. Put in your pupil. And darken that up a little bit. And we have these little lines here I see them on the left eye. we could kind of accentuate those. And there's a little bit on the right eye too. Okay. And let's bring the shading down underneath the eye and then over towards the nose, kind of fill in that area. I'm working on the left side or right side. No, left side of the dog and adding a little more shadow on that side with my black. Okay. Let's put a line at his mouth. That can be a nice solid line, and then also the line that connects the nose to the mouth can be solid. Okay. And then inside his nostrils, let's fill that in. Okay, and then the bottom of his nose. Let's line around that and do some shading. The bottom of his nose here. Okay, I'm going to concentrate a lot of the shading over on the left side. Similar to what we did on the face, just a little more shading on this left side. Are you starting to see that dog? He's starting to come out, say hello. He's starting to get our attention. I'm going to shade right here on kind of the ends of the eyes. Okay, how about a little more here at on top of the mouth? Just to repeat. Okay, and then inside his mouth. And you got this kind of like curly lips going on. And then let's shade from there. Darkest against the lips. Okay, I'm lining around the tongue. I'm going to repeat some of the line inside the tongue. And just a little repeat of shading at the base of the tongue. Just a touch there. So if you're not familiar with me, I'm Erika Joanne from Erika Joanne Art. I have a website. I've been in business for a while. I teach all over the place, and but mostly teach online, and have a subscription box where we do projects from the subscription. And yeah, I sell art materials and designs and instructional materials so that you can duplicate what I do and learn from it. A lot of people will take lessons so that they can just kind of learn new techniques and uh, gather information on what I do so they can turn around and enjoy their own art, develop their own artists within themselves. So I'm shading now, kind of like I did a little bit of accentuating right there around the mouth. I think I'm going to shade a little more in this area, kind of not so. There we go. Yeah. And let's shade against the white sections, the white spots. That will help bring some contrast in. So if you struggle with art and you just kind of want a hand up with it, taking classes from me or our certified teachers is always a good thing. You kind of learn about how the different mediums work together and the color, how that works. It's just really, really fun. We have some great teachers too. Okay, so see how that contrast just really makes that white part of his belly stand out more? That's what I'm looking for. Okay, we have this little collar here, and so I'm going to slightly line around that. Just kind of add some lining around that. And then let's go ahead and shade the ends of the collar with a little bit of this black. Keep your strokes very light. And I'm just shading the ends. And I'm going to lightly line around my body here. I'm picking up my pencil here and there, so it's kind of skipping along. So it's not a really harsh, solid line. It's kind of a skippy line. I think I'm going to put a little bit of decoration on this collar in the way of just little lines like this. Kind of identifies it as it is not part of his fur coat. This is his blue collar. Okay. Okay, let's shade underneath his belly onto the legs a little bit, add a little shading there. And then let's accentuate his toes a little bit, putting a little shading in between the toes. We'll do that on both legs. A little shading between the toes. Little toesies. Cute, cute, cute. Okay. He's coming along. He's developing. Right. I'm fairly pleased. Okay, let's go to the back end. We got this back end. I notice there's a line right there, so I'm adding that. And underneath the body there. Okay, let's start out with the foot. Let's do some shading again, repeating my shading where that foot is. And I don't know if there's little toes on it, but I'm going to create some on there. Okay, and then we'll put some shading in this little V area. Let that fade as you come up. I'm using lighter and lighter with my pressure. His coat it's starting to look velvety, isn't it? I love that. Okay. And then let's go ahead and shade on our tail. A little bit at the base, a little bit at the tip. Right. I think I'm going to shade this a little more. Alrighty, I think he's really good with the shading. We can come back in with a little paint to add a few highlights and can help things stand out a little more. So I'm going to switch over to my paints in just a second. Just kind of going in and deepening the color here. All right. How about some of that warm white? I think his fur coat looks really great. I really love it. Looks almost velvety. I like that. Love that color. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of my warm white and then my brown earth together. See what I can do with that. A little more. I want it to be a really light tan. Just kind of like what we were doing with our black. Add a little black to it. I might go lighter than that. We'll see. Adding more warm white and more black. I want it to match kind of what I got going on with my fur, but to be a lighter color. Okay, that's probably good enough. So we kind of got this taupey color. I'm going to add more black actually. Just a little bit more. I'll show you. I don't want it to be super like so light that it's almost dark against our dog. I want it to kind of blend in a little bit with what we did. So that's a little darker. I like that better. But I was just going to pull in some color right here and here and here. Just some touches. So I'm just working little strokes around his ears. How about right here? On the top of his nose, a little there. A little bit on his back end. These are just little strokes, color. I'm going to put a little bit on the chest. Touches. I went out of the boundary. Darn it. And down here on the toes, a little bit on each toe. Okay, I'm going to rinse out my brush. I might be able to get some of that off. These things happen. I don't like it when they happen. If you ever have a whoopsie like I just did, you can, and if you can't get it off, like this is, I'm just using water and I'm just kind of scrubbing the area, lightly scrubbing it. If you can't get it off, you can always paint the whole background with warm white. The warm white color works really well for the background. So that's okay. Okay, I'm adding warm white to my dirty brush, and I'm going to go back in and brighten those areas that I added. So a little bit of warm white here. Just adding some highlights. It's the same color, but I added warm white to it to go in and brighten these areas. Okay. Oh, definitely on his gum area or mouth area. I don't even know what you would call that. To accentuate that area. And then how about right above his eyes? Just kind of accentuate the eyelids. Maybe even up in here too. Right underneath his eyes too. Okay, I did that. Now let's put some in here. You notice I'm just tapping the color in. I'm kind of having fun with that. Adding a little whimsy. And I'm going to work on the toes. Just touches on those toes. Okay. Let's add a highlight to his nose. So I'm kind of imagining the sun is hitting him this way. So little highlights there. And little highlights in his eyes. Oop, that was a little too much on that side. I'll go back in with the black though. There. So we've covered up a little blue. I might go back in with my blue. I'm going to put a few highlights on the collar with this color. It's kind of a gray. We'll go back in with some white too. And back here too. Okay. Well, let's see here. I'm going to bring in some more warm white to that. I don't want it stark warm white, so I'm going to add it to that previous color a little bit. Just add it so it's a little softer, a little warm white. And we'll go back and reapply our highlights in. It's again just touching the surface here and there and adding some random highlights, kind of repeating our highlights. Definitely in our eyes. I'm going to go brighter. And you're not completely covering what you did before. You're just accentuating. A little bit more on the nose. Let's see, I want a pointed one right there. A little bit on our gum area. And gosh, we forgot about our tongue. We need some on our tongue. I'm filling in the right side a little bit more. A little bit more on the tail. Okay. He's coming along. Just a few more touches. I'm going to take my black and go back in, fix my eye on the left side here. Kind of covered my pupil pretty good with that highlight. So I'm going to fix that. And I want to take some of that blue and reapply it to the eyes because I feel like I lost some of that blue on the eyes and the collar. Water that blue down just a bit and just take it back in and reapply. So a little more. Oh, that's better. A little more blue there. And let's put some on our collar, little touches. Okay. All right, now I'm going to just take white, warm white, just white. That's all. Warm white. And we'll go back and repeat. We're just adding more and more layers. It's fun to play in this way. This is just warm white. Let's brighten those eye highlights a little more on the top of the eyelid, our nose, our tongue. Kind of making it look wet. Just touch, touch, touch. Little dabs here and little dabs there. And little dabs on those toes. Ah, I think we're about there. Putting more on his tongue. There we go. A little more on that nose. You can kind of look around and see where do you think maybe you could add more of a highlight? He sure is cute. All right, well, I'm going to call it good. Maybe a few lines on my collar. Call it good. And I hope you guys had fun. Another dog. Another dog done. And like I said, if you have problems with getting it out, getting color outside of the lines, you can take your warm white and go in and fix some of it. It does kind of change the sheen to the paper. So sometimes it's better to just do the whole paper with the warm white than to try to touch up areas. It does change the sheen. But we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll want to do the whole thing. right. That was super fun. Let me pull them out so you guys can see the whole thing. I'm starting to see your comments now. Yay. Let's say Linda says Aubrey has a great eye for drawing, and you certainly bring those pups to life. Thank you. We're a great team. She's super good at coloring too. Maybe one of these days she'll be able to be on with us. Okay, this is what we did today. Just super fun. Hope you enjoyed it and made it personal to you. We created these watercolor books because we wanted you to have a place to express yourself, and how would you decorate it? How would you paint it up? So that's kind of where that came about. But we do have people that are like, "Why? I need help." So that's why I'm doing YouTube this like little YouTube collection so that you have something to refer to if you want some help. But maybe you even have a better way to do it than I do. You know, I would love to see your work. If you have a chance to send us a photo, we would love it. We'd show it off. Well, I hope you had fun with this little pup, and we will be on in a few weeks. It's going to be a little bit before I'm back on again, but I will be sending out that schedule here soon. And in the meantime, you're welcome to go watch all those free videos that we have for our watercolor books. They are on my website at erikajoanne.com. Just look under Watercolor Willows books, and you will see those watercolor books, and the videos are added to each page. All right. You guys have a wonderful weekend. We're getting there, aren't we? We're already let's see, we're already at Tuesday. We're only on Tuesday. So enjoy the rest of your week and have fun with those pups. Ta-ta for now.